and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to tell you my story. I'm Claire and I'm a ballet teacher and I've been teaching ballet for almost 10 years. So I'm going to share with you my story. More about not so much my life history, but I'd like to share a few of the disappointments and how I dealt with those, and also a little bit about why I started this YouTube channel, because I trained back in the 80s, showing my age, and it was quite harsh, quite brutal, and really, whilst my training was very good and I totally admire my teachers, they weren't given the tools in order to teach the way we can teach today. And when I was training, it was very much about a feeling, and they'd describe movements and sensations and imagery, which works for some people, but they didn't really discuss the mechanics of how you perform certain movements, which kind of confused me when I was younger. And I really appreciate the knowledge I've gained since becoming a teacher that I can give to my students, and I'd like to share with you. And that has actually made me a better dancer since I've become a teacher. Anyway, so first of all, dealing with disappointment. I'm really short, and I'd been told all along, oh, you've got the perfect body for ballet, yeah, you'll be fabulous. And I was really lucky. I got into Elmhurst Ballet School very young, quite young, just before going to comprehensive school. And I was super excited. I auditioned for a grant, and I was led to believe I would get the grant. Now, I know they had to see other people after me, and there was probably an even more promising dancer after me. So sadly, despite expecting to get the grant to go to Elmhurst and train to be a ballerina, I got the letter saying no. Yeah, so you know the letter in Billy Elliot where he gets a letter saying yes. I had the opposite experience, which at sort of 11 years old is fairly sad and quite traumatic, but it didn't stop me. So I was really determined that I still wanted to be a dancer. So I went to comprehensive school. I got private lessons locally on top of my normal ballet classes, and I was just like focused. I practiced, I pushed myself. I went all in with what options I had. So when I came to about 15, that's when I started auditioning for colleges, and this was my goal. I went into my careers interview, told the guy, this is what I plan to do. Actually, it might have been a lady. Told the lady, this is what I'm planning to do, and I have to apply to these colleges and to train full time, and that's what I aim to do. And she basically went, oh, you seem to know what you're talking about, bye-bye. And so that's what I did. I'd looked it up in the library, as you did in those days, and I thought, that's what I have to do. I have to do that. Off I go. And it wasn't until I started auditioning for colleges that I realised that being really short wasn't always the best situation, especially back in the 80s when just as the Bluebell Girls were launching, and suddenly it was like, all dancers had to be long and lean, and petite was not necessarily the ideal dancer physique, which was a bit of a shock. But I was like, I'm determined, I want to be a dancer. So I carried on and I auditioned, and I was very lucky. I got into several different colleges, I think 5, I can't remember, it was so long ago. And I chose to go to the London School of Classical Dance, which turned out to be the perfect college for me. But my reasons for choosing it were slightly obscure. It was Travis Kemp, who is a fabulous ballet teacher, who was taking the class, which I loved. But what I also loved about it was the fact that he had his little dog, and it reminded me of a Degas painting as we were doing our ballet class, and he had his little dog who was walking around with him, and then every so often the dog would go and sit in the basket, and I just thought, oh, this is the school I want to go to. I also loved the uniform. It was back in the days of Lycra, and I'd never seen a cotton Lycra leotard, and all the girls were wearing these beautiful burgundy cotton Lycra leotards. I'm so shallow. Cotton Lycra leotards, and I was thinking, oh, I want to go there because of the cotton Lycra leotards. Obviously there were other factors as well. It was in London, it was where I'd be auditioning, and etc, etc. So I toddled along to London School of Classical Dance. They were saying, because I'd had a break from ballet, they did say that I needed to do some extra classes before joining the school. So from then on I joined their associate programme, and I was there every Saturday on my own at 15, travelling from Surrey to London on the train and tube, as you do back in those days. After my local ballet class, I would hop on the train, took myself up to London and do my class in London and come home and then go back to normal school. And I was literally doing ballet every night in preparation for going to college. And college was amazing. I mean, real full on, and it was a really small school, so we got so much personal attention and a lot of attention to detail. But as I said, in a way that was more through imagery and description, rather than saying, okay, so you're going to be rotating your leg using this muscle and this muscle. So for me, I did it, but soon into my second year, I got an injury, my knees, and I had 180-degree turnout, but I hadn't been using it. And it was my osteopath, who happened to be the osteopath for the Festival Ballet Company at the time. And she didn't look at my knees. She basically got me to do pliés and développés and show me my ballet technique, basically, in my bra and knickers, which was mortifying. And she took one look at what I was doing. She's like, you're not holding your core correctly, you're tilting your pelvis forward, which is preventing you from using your turnout muscles, all the things that we now discuss in class right from a young age. And so she gave me a series of exercises, which I diligently did. I'd get up before everybody else, do my exercises, and I improved, like, quite dramatically. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Anyway, cut a long story short, I went straight from college into a modern dance job. I actually found I really enjoyed modern dance job, and it was landing in my lap. I wasn't going to turn it down. So that's what I did for 20 years. Bits of ballet, bits of modern contemporary, commercial, anything. Basically, I loved dancing, and I basically was happy to do a wide range. I couldn't put myself in a box. I didn't want to be put in a box, so I did everything. And again, I had a big disappointment. So my first disappointment was not getting into Elmhurst. My second disappointment was being told, oh, you're actually too short for dancing, you're going to struggle to get work. And my third disappointment was I had been dancing in London for a little while. I'd managed to get onto a couple of agencies, and in those days you didn't have personal management. As a dancer, you had several different agencies, and actually for me, each agent saw me in a slightly different light, so it's quite handy. So one agent would see me as the girl next door to do all the little girly stuff, one agent would see me as the street dancer, another agent would see me as all the musical theatre, technical, semi-ballet, semi-modern dancer. So I was quite lucky in that sense, but I really wanted to get with Pineapple Agency. They were like the top, the cream of the cream, and I auditioned for them and went wrong. And at that level, you can't go wrong in the audition. No matter how fabulously you dance, they want dancers that can pick the choreography like that. And I didn't. I got down to doing it in our groups of 4, and I made a mistake. I danced my best, but I made a mistake, quite a big mistake, and knew I wouldn't get onto the agency as a result. And I didn't. Disappointment. I was like, so annoyed. And it was through nerves. Yeah, I put so much onto this that I got really nervous. So I used this as a learning opportunity, and I spoke with other dancers and said, what should I do? How do I deal with these nerves? And somebody very wisely, I wish I could remember who it was, very wisely said, go to every audition, just literally exposure therapy. Go to every single audition you can and just get rid of the nerves, so that next time you have a really important audition, you've become so used to it that it's a walk in the park and you can just perform your best. And so that's what I did. I literally auditioned for everything. There, I auditioned with dancers who are up here, and I'm like, there's me. Sometimes they actually measure you first and they go, oh, you, thank you very much. So that wasn't so good. But I literally auditioned for everything, and it was a really good experience. Very quickly, I started to get not blasé about auditions, but have a bit more confidence and start to get a feel for how I like to be in an audition. So being a short person, I've said this about 10 times, I've got an issue with that. Being a short person, I would put myself at the front. And when they say front goes to the back, next group come forward, I'd go to the back a bit. I'd never go right to the back, because if I'm right at the back, I can't see anything. And also, they can't see me. So, and things like, I would change the way I thought about this. Now, I've recently listened to Mel Robbins, amazing, talking about how you can flip your fear, because fear and excitement have exactly the same sensations. I didn't know any of that at this point, but I somehow managed. I think when you've managed to have a couple of successful auditions, you don't feel so traumatized by the whole audition process. So it becomes a bit exciting. So, and also because I've been to so many auditions that I didn't want, when I came to go to an audition where I did want the job, I'd get quite excited about it, as opposed to being, I really want this job. So I started to be more myself in auditions, started to relax a bit more, and because you're a bit more relaxed and more excited as opposed to terrified, I started to pick up the choreography quicker, and when it came to do it in our groups, that's my chance to perform, so I started to get more work. So that was a lovely turnaround from that audition. And yes, I did get onto Pineapple's books. And my third disappointment was when I auditioned for a company called Souls in Motion. I'd been taking classes with a guy called Claude Paul Henry, who was kind of amazing, and I absolutely loved his classes. And I had basically spent the best part of 3 years building up the experience to even get invited to the audition. So it's one of those moments. And I did the audition, thought I had the job, and was told, oh, you've got a recall. So anyway, I was like, oh, okay. And because I was actually led to believe I got the job. Anyway, sorry, long story. So I went along to the recall with 2 of my best mates. The 3 of us, 3 short dancers, all very strong technically, very strong emotionally, not sort of singing my own praises, but the 2 girls I was auditioning with were phenomenal. And that's where my mistake was. I started watching my friend and thinking, oh, her legs are so much higher than mine. Oh my gosh, she's fab. And when they asked if she could tap, my tap was a bit of a blag. So I went, and she went, oh yes, I can tap. Anyway, she fantastically got the job and was awesome. I was devastated, as you are when you're like that. And but luckily, I was in a position to ask the resident director for feedback on the audition. And she said, you could almost see the moment I'd looked at my friend and thought her legs were so much higher than mine. And she said, I literally saw you shrink in front of me. And so that was really good advice. It totally made me realise how much your mental attitude affects your performance in an audition. So that taught me, number 1, to maintain my confidence, but number 2, never to watch anyone else in an audition. You're not trying to be better than them, you're trying to dance your best. So never watch what anyone else does. You do what you do. You've already done the watching other people, learning from other people in class. In an audition, it's your performance. It's all about you giving out to the people watching, to the people making that assessment. So that's what I took from that. So when I eventually did audition again for the second time for Souls in Motion, I got the job and had an amazing time. And yeah, it was one of the best jobs I've ever done. Really loved it. Best dancing I'd done, and yeah, fantastic. So those are kind of my 3 major learning points, my learning bits. That's why I want to share things with you to help you learn from things that happened to me. And just to help you with the audition process. You might be auditioning for colleges, you might be auditioning for ballet school, for all I know. You might be 12 years old going, oh, I want to go to Tring, or I want to go to Elmhurst, or you might be auditioning for White Lodge, or or anywhere. Even you might be auditioning for modern stage school. It's the same mentality when it comes to auditions, whatever you're doing. And now I want to tell you about the mechanical side. So back in the 80s, teachers weren't given the anatomical knowledge that they're given today. And as dancers, yes, we did do anatomy, but it was literally the fundamentals of anatomy. And I just remember one thing that stands out really clearly was when our anatomy teacher said, yeah, actually, you shouldn't be walking turned out. Your body's designed to be walking in parallel. And yeah, you shouldn't walk turned out. That was the one thing I took away from it. That was that walking turned out, which as ballet dancers we all did, or trainee ballet dancers, we all walked like ducks. And yeah, that's not good for your knees, which is good knowledge to know. But also, we weren't actually taught which muscles were engaging for which movements. And that's what I'd like to share with you in my videos here. Knowing how simply by turning out your leg from the hip socket, you're protecting your knees. You're not trying to turn out from your knees. But also by doing that, you're actually creating more mobility in your leg, so you can lift it easier to the front. You can lift it easier to the second. We were taught, like when you're lifting your leg, to lift it from underneath. And my brain's going, okay, I'm not a particularly mechanical person, but my brain's thinking, the top muscle's the muscle that's going to be engaging to lift my leg. How can I lift it from underneath? Now, what I think they were saying was that if you really rotate your leg, you're going to be using muscles that attach to the back of the leg as well. You're going to be using more diagonal muscles as well as your quads to certainly lift your leg at the front. That's what I think they were saying, or just to try and rotate the leg more so that you're going to be using slightly different muscles, not entirely using your quads all the time. I'm not sure, but anyway, it didn't make sense to me. But now we know your quads are going to get engaged when you lift your legs. You don't want to bunch them up and tense it, but they are going to be involved with the lifting of the leg. It's a kind of pulley thing. Yeah, you pull that string, the leg goes up. So I want to share those mechanics, that side of it, how by turning out you give yourself more mobility to second, because you move, you've got a bone at the back of your top of your thigh bone, your femur, you've got a bone at the top. If you try to lift your leg to the side in parallel, that bone gets in the way. Okay, by turning out, that bone gets hidden and tucked away at the back, and woo, you've got all the mobility in your leg. So little things like that I really want to share with you and help you be the best dancer that you can be. And hopefully it's going to work. So look after yourself. Keep practicing. Just put one thing into practice in each class. Try it out. See if it makes it easier. Bizarrely, if you use the correct technique, it actually makes it easier in the long run. It's the same with life, really. Do the hard work now, so you've got the foundations, and then it becomes easy. So that's me. And thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye. Oh, if you want to dance with me, just book yourself a class. Go to bridgeballet.co.uk and you can book a class there and then and join me online or on site. Or if our schedule doesn't work for you, go to bridgeballet.club, join the club, and you can do a ballet class anytime, night or day, for the price of a cup of coffee and a cake. Enjoy.